So box office top 10, but the streamers first of all. Red Devil Dixie says, this is on Leave the World Behind.
Oh, yes, which I
Classic
like very
premise,
much.
quality actors, then. Good actors, ambiguous characters, gradual build-up of tension. It's all going well, bubbling along with more ingredients being added to the pot.
Yeah.
Dystopia has arrived and we've brought it on ourselves by the things that we have all done or not done.
Well, not done.
And there is no healthiness. Mysterious goings-on are presented for you to nod along knowingly. You feel smart. You are smart. You can't anticipate the ending as you're watching. There are too many themes to join up. Not a problem, though. One of the themes will be followed through to a final denouement, surely. Well, no, actually. One of the characters has their wish fulfilled and the rest are left in a will they, won't they limbo. Interesting to watch, but ultimately unsatisfying.
Ooh.
However...
I disagree. I thought it was... What? Oh, you've got your face on, right? Okay. You're holding that as if you're holding a bit of used toilet paper.
Well, appropriately so.
Okay. All right.
Here is an email from Russell Winter, edited together from 8 emails that he sent us.
8? Okay. All right.
You're losing the plot. In my experience, you should never lose the plot. Your soul. Don't lose your soul, or we are gone. If you're going to recommend rude word for £, your business will die. It's simple. I know how this game works. You get all the emails in. You decide what to put on your show. It's a genius system of manipulation. You nurture idiots into the parish. The North Koreans should hire you. And the person reading this is smiling now. The redactors added, I'm not smiling, because they know it's true. Then a line of £. Who gives a rude word about movies anymore? This is my considered response. Mark said this was his movie of the week, a row of £. How much did Netflix pay you? A row of question marks. I am so row of zeros, O's, angry. The plot holes in Leave the World Behind, a whole row of exclamation marks. You wasted 2 hours of my life, in caps, on complete nonsense. You have jumped the proverbial shark, all for another buck. Do you understand how stupid you look when you strongly recommend complete bollocks?
Okay, well,
I mean, there's...
let me just check my... Yeah, the exact amount that I was paid by Netflix.
Yes, how much was it? Answer that.
Oh, it actually wasn't bad.
How much did you get?
No, so I got £4,500 for that.
Really?
Yeah, and you got 250 for teeing it up.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good.
The standard
There
way.
we go. I mean, that's
payment.
I think that's, great. Thanks.
Where do we...
No, your money, Simon, comes out of my payment, okay? So that's how it works. Netflix pays me, they pay Simon, and then we pay you for shilling, okay? We pay you a shilling for shilling.
I think what he means is he didn't like it, which is fine.
It's fine. He's perfectly entitled to not like it. Has your North Korea money come in yet?
No, I did get another check from the BBC for £35. It's another Top of the Pops payment, but that
was that for political propaganda as well?
It wasn't for North Korea.
No, and obviously we bought houses from the Disney money that we got for liking that Star Wars film.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you've been driving around in a Tesla ever since then.
I think that's pushing it too far. I mean, now you wouldn't actually, even if you had the money to buy an electronic car, you wouldn't choose a Tesla, would you?
But
Anyway, battle over Britain. Let's because there's
let's move on.
It's like a nasty taste in my mouth. So let's.
Was that phrase that in Annie Hall? I'd love to talk more, but I'm wanted back on planet Earth.
An email from Vin Hawke. Dear Messrs. Kermode and Mayo, please accept my gratitude. The time you took from your busy schedules to review our little film Battle Over Britain this past
Who's this
week.
from?
Vin Hawke.
Okay.
A.K.A. Nathan Walker, the loudmouth Mank character in Battle Over Britain.
Right, okay.
Aside from the fact that I heartily agree that we did a blooming good job, especially on a budget of 0.05% versus that of Masters of the Air, it was humbling to hear your encouragement and enjoyment of the film, especially so, seeing as I've been a fan of the podcast and radio shows for years. Kindest regards from myself, and I'm positive everyone else. Vin Hawke.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
And he says www.battleoverbritain.com is the website. Last screening is in Sleaford, in Lincolnshire on Sunday.
Insert joke about Sleaford mods here.
And I don't know if they're going to be in attendance, but it arrives on DVD and Blu-ray in January, a phrase I haven't said for a long, long time.
Good. Excellent. Physical media is the future.
Number 10 is The Peasants.
Yes. Well, I liked it. Sorry, I think there's an email that you were about to read first, isn't there?
Yes. From... I'm just trying to see who this is from. Is there a name?
I don't know. It's been redacted in my copy. They don't let me see.
A Romanian expat currently residing in Bermondsey in London, Vanguardista heritage listener, second-time emailer. Hopefully this time it'll be read out. I think a name is needed for this. From Stefan, thank you very much. Stefan, thanks for this. The movie struck a chord for the good lady software engineer indoors and I, as one of the quintessential Romanian novels we have to study in high school.
Oh, right.
Is Yawn by Liviu Robrenu. Yawn was also, this is written I-O-N, by the way.
Okay.
Yawn was also turned into a film in 1980, eagerly used as propaganda by the communist regime that was in power at the time to show how boyars, who are the privileged class of rich landowners, subdued the peasant class. The story is very similar to Jagner's, but from the man's perspective, Yawn is poor, obsessed by getting land, and does anything to get it. He marries the richest girl in the village, but then proceeds to abuse her and cheat on her with his true love, Anna, one of the poorest but most beautiful in the village. Both films show, on par with Jagner's story, how much in Eastern European culture women were susceptible to being sold, used and abused for land and power. At the end of the screening, there was a Q&A with Hugh Welchman, who mentioned all the paintings that make up the movie are for sale and that anyone can own a piece of this wonderful movie. I'll leave the website here, which is shop.thepeasantmovie.com. We walked back home from the cinema, remembering our summer times in the countryside, our smiling grandparents always wanting to share stories of their youth, or the taste of sour cherries freshly picked from the tree. Down with the usual, up with kindness and forgiveness. That's from Stefan on The Peasants.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, you know much more about this than I do. I was just struck by how I thought the film was powerful, and I think that the technique that's used, which I said is kind of evocative of Loving Vincent, I thought it worked because it enabled the film to have its really, really dark moments, but it kind of gave you a layer of when it, because of the painting, it sort of slightly distances you in a way which I think you need to be distanced during some of the tougher moments, and it's also very beautiful at times.
Number 9 is Home Alone, back in the cinemas.
Or, as it's also known, Straw Dogs for Kids.
That old thing. Number 8 is Elf, 20th anniversary of that. So
just
another chance to see
another,
this in the cinema.
How old do we all feel that all these anniversaries are happening?
Number 7, number 5 in the States is Renaissance, a film by Beyoncé. That's the concert film. Number 6 here, and number 9 in the States is Animal.
As I said, not press screened. If anybody has seen it, has anybody sent us an email?
Not.
No.
Number 5 here is Saltburn,
which I like very much. I think it's Emerald Fennell growing as a filmmaker. Also, weirdly enough, in talking about it, not enough attention given to just how good Richard E. Grant is in that film.
He is.
There is a scene at the end of that film when his whole life has sort of fallen apart, and he's at a dinner table sort of looking bedraggled, and without saying almost anything at all, he everything about him conveys catastrophe, and I think he's such a talented actor.
Number 4 here, number 7 in the States is Napoleon.
Napoleon. I did a Q&A thing the other night, and somebody said, what did I think of Napoleon? I said to them, and it was a woman, and I said, and what did you think? She said, I didn't like it, and I said, okay, why not? She said, it wasn't violent enough. I said, I beg your pardon. She said, just the battle scenes. I thought they were quite pretty. But what, including the horse getting hit by the cannonball and the people running at each other with pointing. She said, yes, I just think it should have been nastier.
Well, I suppose if they were being realistic, it probably would have been, but there's a limit to what you can take.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty nasty. I was just surprised that was the sticking point, not nasty enough.
Number 3 here, number 3 in the States, The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
It's okay. I mean, it's done better than I expected, but I suppose that's because it's such a popular IP. I like the Hunger Games movies, but they did decline from the first one, and I don't know that this was essential, but people have clearly enjoyed it.
Number 2 here, number 6 in America is Wish.
Which is Disney telling you how great its back catalogue is and me agreeing with them and then wondering why they're not doing work on a par with that back catalogue.
So number 1, it's not out in America yet, is Wonka.
Which is no surprise at all.
Okay, so Andy Atchison. Heritage listener, third-time emergency mailer. It was just wonderful. My wife and I are in our mid-30s. Our 3 daughters are 8, 6 and 4 respectively. And my dad, who is 68, joined us and even paid for the tickets, which was marvellous. So that's 3 generations.
Wow.
It was pretty enchanting from start to finish, but what will live longest in my memory was a moment early on in the film when Wonka had first given out his hover chocks to the excited crowd.
These are chocolates that make you hover.
Yes, many of whom were now floating in midair. I looked along the back row we were sitting on to see my 4-year-old perched on my wife's knee with both her arms in the air as though they were being pulled up by magical strings.
Wow.
Totally enraptured in the moment, eyes wide, subconsciously imagining that she too was floating under the mystical power of Wonka's magical chocolate. Stunning. It received a hearty 10 out of 10 from our 4, 6, 34, 37 and 68-year-old attenders. Sadly, my 8-year-old daughter, who is something of a Strictly addict, could only muster 9.9. We think, it's never going to cope with that. We think it's a must-watch family film, and I know times are tight financially, but see it in the cinema if you can. It is so worth it. The whole cast is superb, but Olivia Colman, Tom Davis and Hugh Grant are particularly memorable. Mark, give it another watch. It deserves as much.
Well, no, look, I wasn't as crazy about it as that, but nor indeed did you, but you absolutely loved it. And I think what you said is the key to all this. You went in thinking, do I need a Willy Wonka prequel, and 10 minutes in you went, oh yes, I do.
I'm very happy, yes. Harvey Morton in Sheffield, dear Mrs. Scrubbit and Bleacher, and your fantastic production team. As soon as the film started, I had a huge smile on my face. I thought the songs were brilliant and the film was full of so much magic. It made me feel nostalgic and reminded me of some of my childhood favourites that I grew up with, like the original Chronicles of Narnia film, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and the classic 1971 Gene Wilder Wonka film. It was clear that Paul King and Simon Farnaby had clearly crafted Wonka with love and humour. I first saw Timothée Chalamet in Call Me By Your Name, which had a huge impact on me personally as I was coming to terms with who I was, and I've followed his work with great interest ever since. Admittedly, he isn't the best dancer or singer, but his charisma and exuberance carries him through it all.
I'm not a huge fan of the film. I think he does sing and dance well. I thought he was more of a song and dance man than I expected.
Is this a 5-star film? Probably not. But what made it one of my favourites of the year is that I was so wrapped up in the Christmas magic of it all. It was so wholesome, and watching it in a packed cinema full of lots of smiling faces made it one of my favourite cinema experiences of the year. Thank you for your company every Friday. I started listening during the show's previous incarnation when I was still in school. I always look forward to coming home and listening to the newest episode of the podcast. I've always been inspired by you both and have been fortunate enough to start sharing my own film reviews on the radio and as written pieces in recent years. Down with the chocolate cartel. And hello to Jason.
I think it's great that people are having such a good experience in the cinema. On the one hand, it's great for cinemas because, as I said, being friends with a few cinema managers, there is nothing that makes them heave a bigger sigh of relief than a packed cinema of people of all ages, that 3 generations of family going to see a thing and thinking, wow, it doesn't get any better than this.
Hello, esteemed podcast listeners. Simon Mayo.
And Mark Kermode here.
Very excited to let you know that the new season of The Crown and The Crown, the official podcast, to accompany the 6th and final season of Netflix epic royal drama series.
This is very exciting, particularly because super sub and friend of the show, Edith Bowman, is hosting this one.
Indeed, Edith will take you behind the scenes, dive into conversation with the talented cast and crew, from writer and creator Peter Morgan to The Crown's Queen Elizabeth, Imelda Staunton.
Other guests on the new series include The Crown's research team, the directors, executive producer Suzanne Mackey, and specialists such as voice coach William Conacher and props master Owen Harrison. Cast members including Jonathan Pryce, Salim Dor, Khalid Abdallah, Dominic West, and Elizabeth Debicki.
You can also catch up with the story so far by searching The Crown, the official podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Subscribe now and get the new series of The Crown, the official podcast.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
As he's just said.
I have said it a couple of times.
Mentioned it before.